Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am so excited that you are here. This is our final Death Over Tea for the year of 2023, and I'm just truly honored that you all have joined us. I do have a couple of housekeeping items. First off, I would like to make sure that we honor each other's time and just trying to honor the opportunity for each person to speak if they choose to. Again, this is a space where you do not have to have your camera on. You do not have to have you do not have to speak at all during this time together. I of course encourage it, but it's not required, but I would love to see your beautiful faces and be able to, you know, just see ya. But again, I honor it if you can't. And if you're driving, please do not. Please be safe if you're driving. The other idea that I have is that I had mentioned that these in the future will be an hour and 15 minutes. So just honoring your time. If you do need to step out, use the restroom, this is open and available for people to just freely move in and out. But I wanted to maybe just briefly take a moment to just let everybody introduce yourselves if you're comfortable, and just let us know why, what brought you here to this gathering, and maybe where you're from. But no pressure to share. But we'll just kind of quickly move through, and you can just raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute yourself, and we will just kind of introduce ourselves, and I'll introduce myself and then our guest speaker. So let's see. And then if you're not speaking, just since we are recording, if you could keep yourself on mute, that would just kind of help the background noise. But let's start with, can I do what is that game? The Hollywood Squares. So maybe Tina, since you're on my right-hand corner, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and what brought you
Sure.
here?
I'm Tina. I'm from Caldwell, Idaho. I've had 3 deaths in the last 6 years. My dad, my mom, and my husband. I am a CNA. I'm going in for my med tech at the end of January. I do have a Facebook group called Idaho Caregivers Unite. It's to help support and help dogs, help support the family caregiver and education and stuff like that. Then I'm in the middle of putting a little notebook together for caregivers to help them care for the people that they're caring for.
Wonderful. Thank you for your work, Tina. That's so important. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming. And Malone, I have you down below Tina. Would you like to? No pressure though. If you'd
Sure.
like to say anything.
So I'm Malone. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and we used to have death cafes here, and I can't seem to find any more. Like the pandemic just kind of did its magic on death cafes in Portland, I think. Um, so I worked in an ICU for 20 years, and then I right as I retired, the pandemic happened, and uh lots of people died, and right as and I went back to school, and right as I was starting mortuary school, my grandfather died. And so that was a little over a year ago, and now I'm left with not much in the way of family, and just trying to, like, between, like, training is great and everything, but when it's different when it's your family. So just trying to parse everything. So thanks for welcoming me.
Thank you so much, Malone. And where did you find the Death Over Tea? Can I ask?
Just on Eventbrite.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's funny because I tried actually looking for Death Cafe and I couldn't find it. And then when I accidentally uh found this one through a weird like breadcrumb trail. I was like, okay, well, they seem nice. And they didn't say I couldn't come.
Never. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. And Miss Aldebra, welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
Aldebra Stroll. I am a hospice physician in Northern California.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. And Maria, last one. And you're muted, my dear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the lone Canadian here. I'll have to invite some more of my friends. Anyway, a lot of good things happened this past month though. I met a doula. There's a doula in town here at Medicine Hat. I know there's another one, and I talked to somebody at the senior. There might be 3 in town for all I know. And the one that I did meet is going to start a death cafe in here in Medicine Hat in January. So things have just really changed a lot this last month compared to before. I felt like there was no place, like somebody mentioned here, so that's why I came here. This is my 3rd time. I hope I'm a little calmer each time. The first time I don't think I was calm, but I think I'm getting calmer. And I found a great book I have to tell you about. You have to know about this book. It's called The Inner Work of Age. Can you see it? I don't know, probably can't see it. The Inner Work of Age. Okay. Awesome book. If you have not read that, my sister is interested in it. My other sister might be. We might do it together as sisters. But just saying that it is a wonderful book for anybody that dealing with this topic, or just for people that are getting older. It's called The Inner Work of Age: Shifting from Role to Soul by Connie Zweig, Sweig. I don't know if you can see that. I'm not very good at this kind of stuff here. But anyway, it's an awesome book. That's all I can say. So can you see it?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So so lots of things have happened this last month. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I can't believe a month has gone by. I think I did 5 months work this last month because I'm working on my own end of life paperwork and that too. So things are just really moving along. Whatever. Okay.
Thank you, Maria. Oh, I'm so glad. That's wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys. So I want to introduce Karen Midlo, who has become a very good friend of mine. She actually found me on LinkedIn, and she I'll let her tell you her story, but she found me. She was looking for community as she had just recently completed the end-of-life doula training here in the Boise area. I'm Christine, and I have been an end-of-life doula now for about 3 years, even though I have been focusing more on working than been able to have my clients for end of life doula. I've actually been doing a lot of hospice work for doing Reiki on hospice patients, which is just near and dear to my heart. And I have been a nurse for over 30 years, and end of life work has been something that has been calling to me for a very long time. So I'm just super honored to be able to help people in this final leg of their journey. It's super sacred to me, and have seen some very beautiful end of life experiences. So my passion is just to help bring awareness, help people even practice saying the word death and just getting more comfortable with death, and providing some education along the way. And then also just helping to remind people that, we can fully live and have a very full and joyful life up until we take our last breath. So just empowering people to enjoy the moments that we have, even though times are difficult right now for so many people, especially this time of year, that we can really find joy and beauty in the moment. So that is me. You can find me. I'll put it in the chat, but my business is called True North Awakening, and I'm located in Boise, Idaho. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce, we have one more person coming in. I'm just going to let her land here. But Chelsea, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you feel called to, we're just in the process of introducing ourselves, telling people briefly where you are from and what brought you to this Death Over Tea. I've asked you to unmute, but I'm not sure if you can. And you don't have to show your camera. You don't have to show yourself on camera if you'd like to listen here. That's well. And just to also let you know, we are recording this. And if that's not okay, please let me know at the end of the Death Over Tea, and I will honor anyone's decision if they decide they would not like to be recorded and share it on my Facebook page. So, so without further ado, I'd love to introduce Karen. She has become this very special friend to me, and for her bio that she sent me is amazing. I couldn't have written it any better, but she says Karen's career has taken many turns and twists, from an elementary school teacher to a sales director, to catering and to restaurants. In 1998, all her years of searching ended when she started a career in elder care. Karen worked in an assisted living and memory care communities until 2021, when she realized that she had another calling. Karen is an INELDA-trained end-of-life doula and a David Kessler certified grief counselor. She works for Life Changes Elder Care Consulting. Karen really wants to help people have those difficult conversations around the kitchen table versus the hospital bed. And her favorite saying, and I just love this, is hope is not a plan. Karen holds a BS in education from Ashland University in Ashland, Ohio. So I'm going to open it up to Karen. She's going to share 10 or 15 minutes about her journey, and she's focusing on conversations around grief and other things. And then we're just going to open it up for questions or conversations at the end. So Karen, it's all yours. I'm going to mute myself.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christina. And thank you all so much for sharing. I'm sorry my voice is a little sexier than usual. I am in Houston, Texas with my family and seem to have caught a cold. And I'm not sure if part of that catching a cold isn't part of the grief that I think I myself suffer from. And, the expectancy of wanting to have the perfect Christmas and it to be like a Hallmark movie. And guess what? It's absolutely everything but a Hallmark movie at my house. And I think it's pretty typical in most people's homes. And what I thought we would talk about today is actually about loss, since this is such a, especially right now, everybody says it's a season of joy and, the Christmas music, although it's all kind of winding up, and the Hanukkah, menorah and gift giving and parties and overeating and indulging. And you hear all these songs and it's supposed to be this wonderful time. And yet so many people don't feel so wonderful. It doesn't feel like it's such a great time. And I myself had to put on the happy face when I was not feeling all that great around my family this week even. And so I think it's kind of interesting that I caught a cold. No accidents. The body does keep the score for sure. And so what I want to talk about and what I thought would be really helpful is, I want to show you, I'm going to share my screen. I want to share this with you because I think that this is so powerful when you take a look at this. This is called the Ball of Grief. And it was designed by a gentleman by the name of H. Norman Wright. And he created this image of a tangled ball of emotion, all the different balls all the different things that are involved in grief. And can you see all the different things that are entangled in there? Everything from apathy to dismay, to sorrow, to confusion, to rage, to sadness, to guilt, to bitterness, to envy, to loss. All of those things are wrapped around. All around our feelings are wrapped around. So it's really no wonder it takes us such a long time to heal. The grief is a journey. And it's like, and as I'm on my own journey, I'm also unwinding just talking about the expectancy of not having the Christmas that I thought I was going to have, and somehow thinking that it was going to be different. And finally, and realizing it's not. It's not going to be different. It is what it is. And it's interesting for me to take a look at how much I wish things were better or different. And then I waste so much time. My mom is 88, my dad is 91. And I'm really clear, I don't know how much time I'm going to have left with them. And they are doing the best that they can. And they're behaving their way based on what they learned from their moms and dads. And they're not going to change. So I'm hoping that some of you all can relate to that as far as loss and expectancy, the disappointment, and basically expectations is actually means it's a disappointment that hasn't happened yet. And it's at an all-time high during the holidays. And so what I thought we would talk about just as a group, or what are some things that you're noticing that you feel loss this time of year? I lost my husband as well. I sense that. I'm wondering if anybody wants to share what are some different, and the other loss that I'm noticing is loss doesn't have to necessarily be the death of someone. I'm grieving the loss of my body as I'm aging. My body hurts. It doesn't work like it used to. I can't raise my arms as high as I used to. And I'm grieving that, my aging. So I'm wondering if anybody has anything that they would like to share on things that you're grieving or some losses that you'd like to share. Maria, did you have?
You know what? I had such a bad Christmas last year that this year's was better. Does that make sense?
How so?
Like last year was my first Christmas without my husband, and it was really hard. And I went to the senior center, and I think I cried, and whatever. It was just awful. Let's put it that way. So this year, I think number one, I met somebody that I knew there, like a girl that I know that I met her. Like I said, we'll sit together. So that was helpful. And the table that we sat at was really helpful. So this year was just so much better than last year that that to me, it couldn't have got much worse, right? So I actually had a pretty good Christmas, but it's because I'm not in that initial stage of grief anymore, kind of thing, right? And I didn't have high expectations because I just thought, I hope it's not as bad as it was last year. So it was actually better. So I guess we you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So anyway, I didn't really have a tough time. Really, I didn't. It was much better. Yeah.
What was your husband's name, Maria, so that we can?
Terrell, TJ, we went by TJ. Terrell was his name, Terrell, T-E-R-R-E-L. Yeah.
Did you do something not to put you on the spot, but did you do something to remember him in a special way?
I did that a few weeks before because he had his birthday was December 7th, so that was almost harder, right? So I think I kept myself busy doing end of life stuff, paperwork that day. I don't know, it sounds crazy, but I find sometimes for me, I have to keep myself really busy doing something like on the special days. If I have something planned or have some activity, then I don't sit and think all day about, you know what I mean? Because that gets very wearing kind of thing, right? And I thought my husband would want me to not be, he suffered so much the last year that he would want me not to be miserable. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like for me, he was kind of like he didn't have to suffer anymore. So I have to look at that side. I have to look at the good. If I look at the bad side, which I did off and on, but I've worked a lot of that through as well. But I have to look at what was good about this. What was good, and him not suffering is a really good thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a gift because watching somebody suffer is hard. Trust me. I don't know that I could do that again, like in that intense way, right? Because my husband was home till the last day, so I had to watch all the suffering, and he had no help, no meds, no nothing. He didn't want it, so. Whatever. It's the only regret I have is not making it till the last day. Like not, I kind of let him go to hospice the last day. So I'm the one that phased out. So I'm the one that's had to forgive myself. I find this year has been mostly about forgiving myself. It sounds weird, but the first year is grief. The second year seems to be forgiving myself. Yeah. Weird. I know. That's true for me. It might not be true for anybody else, but. And the third year, I'm kind of ready to move on to other, like stuff. I want to learn more about death and dying because I didn't know anything. Like that was part of the problem, is that I knew nothing, right? And I'm trying to deal with this that I know nothing about, right? So it's kind of weird, right? But anyway, it's all good. It makes me want to learn now. So after the fact.
Wow.
So,
Thank you
yeah.
for sharing that, Maria. It sounds like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you've started finding some meaning in the loss of your husband's and his life, and you're starting to see the meanings that it had, along with the grief.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to talk about death. A lot of people I know, seniors, like I'll have a lady at 82 years old across the hall. I never talk about death. I never think about death. And I'm going like, okay, whatever. But I'm not afraid to look at it. I'm not afraid to read this book and deal with it. You know, I just feel like I want to be better prepared. I want to be more knowledgeable. I don't want to be so fearful and unknowledgeable. That was a big problem for me, right? And I think knowledge is power. Less fear is power, right? I don't. It's a natural experience. I see that. It's just that we don't know how to deal with it in our society, right? So yeah.
Well, yeah. It sounds like you are making some real inroads to having the conversation and being willing to be around other people to talk about it and start having the discussion. So that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, being vulnerable. Anybody else want to share about how the holiday was for them, or what's on their mind or heart?
I thought I had a lot of anticipatory grief. Like I have some people in my life that, like the day before Christmas, someone shared that they were told that they have a shorter amount of time that they expected. And then there's just some folks in my sphere that their health is declining very quickly. And so I have this, so this holiday was more about honoring them where they're at and realizing that this is probably going to be their last Christmas. And so I spent time in the morning meditating and thinking about all the people that I cared for this past year and all the people that are, you know, this, like you said, this Christmas was super tender and special, extra special this year, knowing that this, I mean, none of us ever know that this could be our last Christmas, period. But really, I was super tender, and just really trying to honor those who are really navigating this time in their life. And then and also just remembering the people that I cared for and their families, and how difficult this Christmas is likely without their loved ones. You know, I wanted to mention in that picture that you showed, you know, that ball of denial, and I noticed that rage was listed a lot. It was this thread that was kind of wrapped around, and I had a lot of anger this year that really surprised me, because I don't really feel like I'm an angry person, but there was just like, why is this happening to this person, and just really kind of surprised by the anger. So it does pop up. All those emotions do pop up, and it's not, I always just think about grief not being linear, right? It's just any day, any situation, anything can happen. So yeah, thank you for opening this up for conversation, because it can be a very tender time for a lot of people.
Thank you. And that's such a great comment. That's why I love that ball of grief, because it really shows that it's all mixed up, and no wonder we're carrying around a lot of stuff from a lot of different losses and grief, not just necessarily death, but that as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Christine. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share. This was my first Christmas without my father. So I just kind of really thought about, just embraced the good, memories, and because he really loved Christmas, and he really was the person who kind of really made it special. around the house. And so just kind of enjoying some of those memories was how I opted to deal with.
What was your dad's name?
Ronald.
Ronald. Wow, thank you. What was would you be willing to share one special thing you did to honor your dad, Ronald?
That I did or that he used to do? I did. Well,
Either,
for me, it was
either.
just bringing up, kind of intentionally bringing up the memories. Well, he often would go get the tree on our property. So bringing in, we had a big 16-foot ceiling. So usually it was a big tree. Blue lights. For me, that's the ideal with the silver, the way they play off of the silver tinsel, the blue lights. So he'd like to put together the tree and, you know, by getting it himself and putting it up and then hanging the special lights on the tree in the house, but also outside. Then the outdoor also had decorations of blue lights. And one of his favorite little gags was he'd say, "Oh, so did you hear I heard footsteps last night. Did you hear those footsteps up on the rooftop? Oh, you missed it. Oh, you must have slept through it when Santa came. Oh, that's too bad. You missed it again."
It's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Sounds like a great guy.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so funny. I mean, we're professional, or you know, this is what you said. You were a hospice doctor, and I'm, you know, as well, and Christine, and I don't know, and Tina, who's also a, you know, caregiver, and other people's stories. You know, it is so different. Somebody shared when it's our own family, it's different. It's just really different. And somebody shared that today, and that's so true. So true.
For Christmas this year, for me, I grieved my husband on the 14th. That's the day he passed 3 years ago.
Mm.
Then on the 15th, I found out that I already knew that my middle child was expecting. Then I also found out that my third child is expecting.
Oh.
So, and the babies are going to be about 2 weeks apart for next year. So that made my Christmas happier.
Yeah. What was your husband's name, Tina?
Carlos.
Carlos. Oh my goodness. And is this the first time you're going to be a grandma?
No,
Oh,
this
okay.
will make 5.
Oh my goodness. It's wonderful.
I've got a 17-year-old granddaughter.
Wow. That's beautiful. I love that there's some joy. It's going to take the time. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Did anybody else want to share? I think what's so important is that it's so lovely that we can sit here and talk about this on Zoom, that we're able to take off the masks that we put on. At least I'll talk about myself. I can take off my mask and be really honest with you all and say, it's been a tough holiday because of my own expectations around my family wanting things to be different, and to be able to really feel those things. For me, I'm not much of a big feeler. And so what I do for my feelings is I tend to stuff them. And the way I do that is by eating. Just let me have some sweets, and boy, everything is better, but not for very long, because then the clothes get tight, and you know, that's another whole spiral that goes down. But to really allow ourselves to feel the feelings. Is there some ways that you all are able to share about how you feel your feelings of loss or grief? Some people choose to drink, some people choose to eat. There's some other things that you all can think of, or that works for you, Tina?
The depression hits real hard.
Yeah. And what do you do for yourself when that depression hits?
It takes me a while to get out of it.
Yeah.
But I have to, sooner or later, I'll realize that things have to change.
but you allow yourself to, I'm hearing that you allow yourself to feel that depression
Oh, yeah.
for a little bit, to at
Yeah.
least acknowledge it and allow it to show up. And
It might take it might take 2 weeks, but I let it go through its process.
yeah, thank you. That's really helpful.
I think
Yeah,
grief is something that we have to feel when it's there. Do you know what I mean? Like I think for me, the first 6 months, I didn't do a heck of a lot else. Does that make sense? And not that I spent all my day crying or nothing, but I took a grief group. I worked through the books done by grief. And like I did the grief work, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? And so I think after that, I was kind of ready to move on a bit. And I think there's such a thing as pre-grief too, because I think it was hard for me to see my husband suffer. So I think I grieved a lot before he went, if that makes any sense. Like, and I think when he went, it was almost like, thank God he didn't have to suffer no more. So I don't know, I have a different perspective, I guess. And whenever I did start to feel sorry for myself, I'd say, well, would you really want him suffering anymore? And I'd say, no, I want him back healthy, but God's not going to do that for me. So I have to, I have to accept God's will in the whole thing, like God's plan, like it wasn't my plan, right? But I guess I have to look at, well, God knows what he's doing, right? I might not understand it, but I have to accept it, right? Well, for me, I had to accept it. And I had to start doing gratitude every day. Look at what was good still. I still have 2 eyes. I still have 2 arms. I can still walk. I can still, see the sunshine. There's things I could still do. So I had to do a gratitude list every day. I still do, because I think for me that helps me focus on what's good, right? It's not always easy, but like I say, this year was so much easier than last year that I don't know. I mean, I have my bad days, and I sometimes think, well, I'm the only one here in this town. There's no brothers or sisters or kids or relatives or nobody, But I also realized when I went to the senior center, there's other people in the same position as me, like on Christmas Day. I thought they don't have nobody either. We're here by ourselves. We're all here together by ourselves. So it was like, I'm not the only one. Like this common humanity thing, or like, like I'm not the only one. I really aren't. Right. And so for me, I have to really keep that in mind. Right. Not that I always do, but my sister will straighten me out. If I'm having a bad day, I'll phone her and she'll kind of like, okay, what's going on? Right. So I've gotten really close to my 2 sisters, which is a blessing too. So I don't know. I'm starting to see the good things, which I can't believe I'm doing that, but who would have known, right?
that's awesome, Maria. One of the things I heard you say, and I don't think it was on that ball of grief, that I think should be there, is relief. Some people feel relief when there's if they had a loved one with Alzheimer's, dementia, ALS, whatever. And there's also guilt around that, of feeling relief that they're no longer suffering. So you bring up a very valid point. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's awesome. Just a reminder, as we're all going through this season of loss and grief, and I love also, Maria, what you said about, it's such a great reminder that we're not alone. And typically what I do when I start a group is I say, raise your hand if you've never had a loss. And of course, no one can raise their hand. And it's kind of just a reminder that we really all have had some kind of loss or grief. And that it's kind of the human existence. It's what happens as we're being human. And so just some tips to remind you is that no is a complete sentence as we're going through grief and loss, that allowing yourself permission to say no, allowing yourself to say, and no shooting on yourself, that there's absolutely nothing you should be doing other than taking care of yourself, us taking care of ourselves. And it's just a time for us to be patient with ourselves, and also to remind yourself, for us all to remind ourselves, that we may not be feeling like ourselves. We may feel fuzzy. We may have a hard time concentrating. All of these things are signs of grief, and they keep going over and over and over again. It doesn't matter how long you know, since it's been that we've lost our loved ones, we still have losses, and it kind of brings all those things run into the surface. And so I love Brene Brown. In one of her books, she talks about permission slips. Do y'all remember when we were going on field trips as kids and you'd have to take it home and have your mom or dad sign the permission slips that you could go on the field trip or go to Brownies or something? She suggests you write yourself a permission slip. A permission slip, whatever it is, like a permission slip to be angry, a permission that you're not going to make your bed for the next month. Oh my gosh. Or a permission slip that whatever that it is that you think you're not allowed to do, that you give yourself the permission to do that. And finding meaning in celebration, you know, even losing pets, such a loss, that are such important pieces of all of us too, as our pets. One of the things that I like to do is light a candle for my husband, Kenny. It's just a way to remember him. I had somebody else tell me that they were setting a place at the table for their loved one, just to have them there, and that's great. I mean, it's whatever works for you that gives you an opportunity to allow yourself to have the feelings, and also to come up with new holiday traditions. And I love this quote, and I don't know that I can share it with you. I don't know if I have it on my screen, so I'll just read it to you. The reality is that you will grieve forever. You will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will learn to live with it. You will heal and you will rebuild yourself around the loss you've suffered. You will be whole again, but you will never, ever be the same. Nor should you be the same, nor would you want to. And that's a quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing to remind us all that we never want to forget our loved ones. They are important, nor should we ever. They were too important for us to forgive them. So kind of a talked all over the place and given you some things. I'm wondering if there's some questions you have or some things that you would like to share in our conversation. Any questions you want? Maria, you said you were looking forward to learning more about death. Is there any questions that you want to put out to the group? This is an opportunity just to chat.
I think I'll just do it locally with the Death Over Tea event kind of thing. Like Christina had a good thing online there that I listened to, and I thought it was so awesome. She said that when a person is dying, they don't want to drink, they don't want to eat, don't push it on them. My husband was like that for about two or 3 weeks. He didn't want to drink, he didn't want to eat, he didn't want to do nothing. And it's funny because the home care came in 2 weeks before that. And of course, my husband's a real talker, right? He didn't want to go to hospice. So he's telling this girl that he's depressed and that's why he's not eating. So she told me, you got to cook for him. I go, okay. So when she left, I'm cooking away, I'm buying food. I had enough food here for a month. But of course, I knew he wasn't going to eat it, but I thought, well, he's not really dying. He's depressed. I knew better, but I wanted to believe that he was going to get better. And my husband was a smart guy. Trust me, he was intelligent, extremely. And he figured if I tell this nurse that I'm depressed, she'll go away, leave me alone, you know? And so it's still amazing to me now that, you know, but yeah, he didn't want to eat. He didn't want to drink. I didn't push it on him because I thought, you don't want to, right? And so I kind of honored that, but it was kind of funny that he fooled the nurse into thinking that he was depressed. He was smart. He was as sharp as could be, trust me, right to the very end. Because the last night in the merge, the nurse asked him, how you doing there, sir? And he goes, I'm okay, baby. So he was fine. He was fine with the whole process. I think I was probably not as fine as he was, like, you know what I mean? And I wasn't handling it that well at that time. Now I can look back on it and say, okay, he was quite fine with it all. Like, you know, like, I don't know, really weird when I think about it. So for me, I guess I don't know that I have questions so much as, what I want to learn more about, and I guess I'll talk to the doula about that. I really don't think they handled the medication thing good at the end. my husband had no meds, and then they pounded a bunch of meds into him. I was like, what? Like, yeah, that wasn't good. But anyway, I have to process all that. So I don't think I have questions. I'm doing okay. Sometimes I'm amazed. I talk to my husband a lot. I don't know if people. I'm going, is that weird? Because I still do talk to my husband. It's going, oh, Carol, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? I'm kind of, I miss that, being able to, to ask him, what do you think about that? Because I thought I got to figure it out myself now. And he was a very good judge of character, and he could figure out, or he'd tell me what to do or not do. And so that I kind of miss. I've had to kind of step up a bit and figure things out myself. But there's days where I go, gosh, I don't want to figure this out myself. But you know what I mean? I'd like to ask somebody, right? But I just have to figure it out myself for the most part. So I'm actually looking forward to talking to other people about stuff, because it's been kind of a lonely year. I'm getting actually pretty good at, but I'm actually connecting more with people, but I'm still very alone. But it's okay. Like, it's funny how can actually be alone and be okay with it, I guess, in some sort of weird way, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm still here, and sometimes I'm surprised by that, but I'm seeing good things too. I don't know. Like my two sisters want to do this book with me. Like, what? I mean, I'm just like, that's so shocking and so amazing. I can't even like, I'm going, I don't know. So, I mean, it's, God's up to something, right? I mean, things are happening. Like, I think that's it. The first year we grieved. The second year for me, I repented a lot. I kind of, I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry I did, like I'm looking at all the things I think I could have done different, right? And the third year, I actually think I'm going to move on a bit. So, it's a process. It is a process. And anyway, I'm talking a lot now, but anyway, yeah. I don't know. I don't really think I have any questions. I think I need to make them for the people that I'm going to be talking to, probably. I've already talked to people sometime when they get the opportunity, but actually, this is no word of a lie. At the Christmas dinner on Christmas Day at the senior center, this lady across from me wanted to talk about death with me. So go figure. I mean, go figure. Like, this is no word of a lie. So. And she was easy to talk to. She used to be a nurse, and she kind of like, I don't have no problem talking about death and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, like I say, I'm just sort of a little boggled lately with all this stuff that's happening. So anyway, that's all.
Thank you, Maria. And everybody's got a process, and thank you for sharing that. Yours. Thank you. I've got a couple of things too to share with you, since you were talking, all of you. This is one of my favorite tools, and it's from Compassion and Choices. And it is, if you go on their website, compassionandchoices.org, if you make a donation, they will send you this wonderful book. And the reason that I love this book so much is that there is some really specific things for people with like dementia provisions that it actually takes you through. For instance, it gives you a choice of, for instance, I have forgotten everything about my past, but still recognize those closest to me. And the choices are, I want to live as long as possible, and then you initial it. I want no life-saving treatments, or you would initial that. Keep me comfortable and stop or avoid any treatments that are preventing me from dying from other diseases, and you initial that. Keep me comfortable while stopping all treatments and withholding food and water so that I can die peacefully. So they're taking one thing and kind of giving you which thing would you want to choose. And these are great questions. I have found to be really awesome. So this is a wonderful book, and you can get it. I think for making a donation, they'll send it to you. And they also have got one that's a PDF file, so that you can, it's a working document. So maybe today I would want someone to do CPR, but maybe tomorrow I wouldn't. So you can change it, and it's a PDF file that they can send you so that you can. So I found this to be a great tool, and it's a not-for-profit, and they've got so many resources called compassionandchoices.org. And the other thing, this is a wonderful book. And I know that Christine's talked about Gabrielle Jimenez. This is the Doula Toolkit, and it's a wonderful resource for, you were talking, Maria, and some other people about And Tina, you were talking as well for your caregivers. This has got some wonderful resources, tips and tools about helping people with death and dying. And so it's a brand new book, hot off the press. So I brought that to share with you. My other things that I love to share, I don't have with me, they're at home. I love to share the death deck. Christine, do you have your death deck? Have you guys seen the death deck yet? No?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
I'll go grab it.
Okay, perfect. I take that with me. You all have been talking about having people have conversations around death. The death deck, it's like Trivial Pursuit. And there's 3 questions that you answer the question. Like the question is, after my husband dies, I'm paraphrasing it. After my spouse dies, I should if I meet somebody, I should go out with them because life is uncertain and love might never come along. B, I should wait. How long should you wait till you start dating somebody? B, 3 to 6 years. Or C, never, because my spouse will haunt me from the grave. So they're very light and funny, and they're open. They are a great discussion. So there's that. It's called the death deck. And the other one that's really good is if you're working with people that are actually in the dying process, it's called the EOL deck. And again, they're really great questions to start conversations. So when I go to networking events, I take those with me and let people pick them, and they're funny questions. Kristen, you want to pick one and read it so everybody can see what it's like?
There's also this one, it's called the Wish.
Yep.
That's another nice little deck. That's kind of a nice conversation starter with family and just deciding what's important together. I thought it was kind of interesting to work on this one with my husband, like, because you go through and you pick out very important, not so important, and yeah, I don't really care about that. And so of course your very important pile is pretty large in the beginning, and then you have to choose 10. And it's really kind of an interesting process to go through. And to me, it made me realize, yeah, that's not really as important as I thought it was. And then working with it with my husband, it was a wonderful tool to have that conversation. Things that are really important to me weren't really that important to him. And so, having him be my person to make the decisions, those conversations I think are really important to have, because he's going to be advocating for me, and he better darn well know what my wishes are.
Christine, you bring up a great point about that Go Wish, because they also have it online. It's free, so you can take it online, and same thing, you've got to pick your top 10 that you must have, and then so that you can then make a copy of it and take a look at it, and you can see how things change over the years. But it's great to be able to have a copy, and I think it's gowish.org.
Yep, and that's a great website for resources as well. It's CODA Alliance,
right?
So codaalliance.org. So it's a great little tool. So one of the questions and maybe we can go around in a circle and you guys can answer
Perfect.
A, B, or C. So this question is: growing up, my family dealt with death, A, by talking openly, sharing feelings, stories, and dark humor. B, in a no nonsense sort of way. Stuff happens, you move on. And C, keeping it all bottled up and avoiding any discussion. So does anyone I would say, I think A would be my that's the way it was when I was growing up. My mom was very open about it, and my mom had kind of this wicked sense of humor and laughed about everything. So she made it a little bit more comfortable talking about hard conversations, either all or nothing. So that would be my answer, is A. If you guys need me to read it again.
C for me.
B for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you
And
read
how
it
was that?
again? I missed
Yep.
part of it. Please.
So growing up, my family dealt with death. A, by talking openly, sharing feelings, stories, and dark humor. B, in a no-nonsense sort of way. Stuff happens, you just move on. Or C, keeping it all bottled up and avoiding any discussion at all costs.
Mine was C.
Mhm.
And it still is to this day. My mom and dad do not want to talk about death and dying with me at all. Don't want to have the conversation. So
Yeah, I think my family was C as well. We never talked about it growing up. I know when my mom's dad died, and it was kind of like we knew he died, but no, we didn't talk about it, right? And our neighbor boy died, we didn't talk about it. The neighbor girl died, we didn't talk about it. Yeah, I grew up with a family, didn't talk about it, you know. Yeah. So it's great that my two sisters want to talk about it now. I'm just totally amazed. Anyway, okay.
yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for reading some of those questions.
I'd say that my family was sort of a blend of all of them. Like, I'm sorry if you can hear my child's music in the background. It's very loud. Anyway, we kind of dealt with it like you would deal with stepping in like a cow pat. Like, you don't deny it, but you don't want it to happen. And when it does happen, you might make a joke about it, but then you just like stop talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Malone. Tina, since you, not to put you on the spot, and you can certainly don't have to answer, since you're working with caregivers, what kind of suggestions and tips would you like to give the caregivers?
Well, one of the things that's been brought to my attention is the gentleman I was taking care of had cancer, and he passed away November 30th. And I still go to the cancer group. They've accepted me into their family. And one of the ladies came and talked to me, and her daughter is an RN and also her caregiver. And it really hurt the lady's emotions when the daughter says, "I'm not your daughter, I'm your caregiver." Even though you're a caregiver, you can still be the daughter. Whenever you give them a hug, whenever you give them a kiss, just hold their hand. Even if it's for 30 seconds, you are their child, their relative. And people need to realize that, because they don't think that they can separate the two. You can't. It's going to be in very small chunks. But when you're not helping with their ADLs or their baths or anything like that, when you're just sitting there watching TV together, you can go over and give them a hug and just sit next to them. And at that point, you are their relative. You're not their caregiver. And that's what they want. They want their relative. So that's the main thing.
Very, very wise. Thank you, Tina.
And Maria, the girls can also say nay, hey, yep. But depending on what the individual has, what disability they have, what disease they have, is when they decide on when to give the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's certain diseases that you definitely want to give medicine to help with the pain when they're crossing over, because they still do feel pain. the last thing that goes is the hearing.
Mhm.
Thanks, Tina.
Yep.
Anybody else want to add to the discussion?
I don't think that I did a very good job separating myself as a caregiver and a family member. I think with my dad, when he passed, I could be present because he was in a hospice unit, and the nurses, I mean, the nurse literally just said, don't be the nurse. We got him. You just be the daughter. And so I was just really able to, they took care of everything. And I just was there with him, and it was beautiful. And granted, I had been by his side for 2 weeks up until I was with him. He was diagnosed and passed within 54 days. So it was very fast. And so it was just this, I was exhausted. And so by the time we got him in the hospice unit, I think he was maybe there, it was less than a week. But really just being able to just be the daughter was so
Yeah.
was so helpful. And then but my mom, I was there with her alone. My sister was there, but she was very clear that she didn't want to take care of her physically at all. And so even though she was there in the house, it was really just up to me. And so I was providing 24-hour care for my mom, and I was exhausted. And I just, even when she was actively dying, I was still the nurse. And so I would just like remove myself, go stand out in the parking lot and just cry, and then get my act together and come back in and just be present as much as I could. And of course, if I would have known then what I know now, I probably would have had a doula or someone kind of supporting me, help support my mom. Like I always just say, I wish someone was holding my hand while I was holding my mom's hand. And I was just so tired. And so it was, so thank you for that reminder, Tina, of just being able to, you know, allowing ourselves to have those moments of just being able to just be present as the family member and the loved one. It's just so hard,
Mhm.
I find it a little easier taking care of someone that I don't have a relationship with. I can be a little neutral and just become the observer and not kind of get washed away in their story and the grief, and I can just be holding space much better. But it's when it's your own, there's all that, it
Mhm.
gets a little mucky,
Mhm.
and so it is harder. But yeah, I think it's important to remember that, when I think about um, when I'm dealing with things that are hard, and I have a tendency to just stay really busy. And so when you were talking about, Karen, and what all of you guys have talked about is, we all just kind of deal with things differently. And my go-to, of course, is food. I love food. Food is my friend. And but also just reminding myself that I'm a human being. We're all these human beings having this human experience. They're just spiritual beings having this human experience. We're not human doing, right? We're human beings. And so I have a tendency to just really get busy, and I'm really tired. This has been a really busy year. And so taking this time, just circling back around to what you talked about in the beginning, Karen, is just the importance of just self-care,
Mhm.
just, and it can look so different, of just the last 3 days before Christmas. I was just literally in my pajamas. I did not leave the house. I was really busy doing a bunch of nothing. I found myself elbow deep in sourdough bread. That's my new obsession. but giving loaves of bread away, and just staying really busy in that way, I found it very therapeutic and healing. So I kind of went off on that. But yeah, I think it's important to care for the caregiver. I'm very passionate, and I just love the work that you guys are doing, especially you, Tina. Thank you.
Yeah, with being a caregiver, it is hard to separate the two, real hard.
Big time.
I mean, there was times where I didn't know if I was coming or going.
Mhm.
Luckily, toward the end there with my mom and my husband both, I had hospice there and I had a shower aid. So I was able to take some time for myself when the shower aid was there. The morning that my husband died, I had my son-in-law come over and help me readjust him in the bed. Then I called for the nurse and the CNA death aide to come over and give him a bath. And while the nurse was standing there, he had cancer that went up from his shoulder, up his neck, down to his throat, and was cutting off his throat and stuff. So he was more or less whispering when he talked. And, he said that I was his angel and that he loved me. And he kissed my hand. And so I bent over and kissed him on the lips. That was the last thing that we did together when he was alive. And it was a couple of hours. I had ordered a morphine drip, and about an hour and a half, 2 hours after they gave him his bed bath, he was gone. So I just called up and says, we don't need the morphine drip anymore. But those were his last words to me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Tina. Thank you all for sharing, being vulnerable. I have a list of resources I'm happy to share. There's all kinds of books and stuff that are out there. I can just sort of, I don't know if you can see them here, but I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not very technical and I don't have my computer at home, but on Grief and Grieving by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Life Lessons by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler, Finding Meaning by David Kessler. Highly recommend his website, grief.com. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Grief One Day at a Time. It's 365 meditations to help you heal after loss by Dr. Alan Wolfett. And he has a wonderful website too, which is at the centerforloss.com. It's Okay to Laugh by Nora McInerney, and she has a wonderful podcast. It's great, and it's I'm terrible, thank you for asking. And she talks about death and dying and grieving and her experience. Year of Magical Thinking by Joan, I hope I say their names right, Diddington. Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully by Frank Osesi, who is a Buddhist monk and also opened the Zen meditation or Zen hospice in San Francisco. And this is one that I'm reading right now. It's Okay That You're Not Okay. Meeting Grief and Loss in a Culture That Doesn't Understand by Megan Devine. Anxiety, The Missing Stage of Grief, A Revolutionary Approach to Understanding and Healing the Impact of Loss by Claire Bidwell Smith. And The Grieving Brain, Surprising Science of How We Learn from Love and Loss by Mary Frances O'Connor. And just a couple of movies that you might want to check out. The Art of Dancing in the Rain, Eyes Wide Shut, Groundhog Day, Lars and the Real Girl, Manchester by the Sea, Meet Joe Black, Ordinary People, and The World According to Garp. So those are just a couple of movies and books and things that you can watch. So I see we're running out of time, so I thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it over to Christine. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share, and thank you all for sharing.
Thank you, Karen, so much. Wow. Could you do me a favor and send me that list, and then I'll be happy to send it to everyone in an email? That would be awesome. And then can you also put your contact information in the chat on how people can reach you if they have any other additional questions or would just like to connect? I would really appreciate that. I put my information in the chat. You guys can always reach me by phone or email. Or my website. I just am just so honored that you guys chose to spend the evening with us tonight, and I hope that you were able to, yeah, be able to connect and find some answers that you might be searching for. And I just love that we have someone in Texas, we have two people in Idaho, we have someone in Colorado, California, Canada. I mean, that's so cool. And then Chelsea, I'm not sure where you're from, but I'm so grateful that you have been able to sit with us this evening. I'd love to just, oh, Alaska, nice, very cool, so cool. Does anyone have any last minute things to say? Otherwise, I will close it in my usual fashion.
I do want to say, Christine, that your little comment about you wished you would have had a doula the last week or so, I kind of really wish that too, because I was trying to do both and not knowing what I was doing. And
yeah.
I was so overwhelmed. Like, you're right. When my husband finally did make it to hospice, I was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? I was so exhausted. I think I slept. He went within a day, but I think I slept and rested. I was so exhausted. And when you said that, I just connected. Like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard trying to do both. It really is. Without help. I think getting some help is not a bad idea. Now that anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I think that it's just, you know, we know how to die, right? We all, I mean, none of us are getting out of here alive, and I think that we've kind of gotten far away from, you know, we know how to care for our loved ones. We've just forgotten, and so I think we're in a state of remembering, you know, of how we can have. You know, a natural end of life experience that doesn't have to be if we plan. You know, Karen talked a lot about plan. If we can get and we get some support, lots of community support if we can. So, you know, one of the things that I love to share at the end is something that is just near and dear to my heart, and I share it every time. But I really one of the nuggets that I'd like to leave with you is just remembering, you know, we've been talking a lot about death and grief, and really what I hoped to convey is that really we're here to find the magic in each day, and even though our hearts can be heavy and we miss those that are now on the other side, free from their physical body, and hopefully having some beautiful, amazing experiences wherever they are, we still feel the loss. And so, but our job is to remember to live as fully and as fabulously as we can here today, right now, because it is possible to have deep and immense grief, but also feel joy. I mean, I know that it's possible because I have experienced it. Just go outside and look at the birds and the blue sky. It's like I can be just in awe of the magic of the planet and the beautiful earth that we are living in today. So my favorite poem, and I got this from Gabby Jimenez when I took one of her classes. If you haven't connected with Gabby, she has a website, Facebook group called thehospiceheart.net. She is one of my mentors, and she is a nurse in the Bay Area in California. And then she's also an end-of-life doula that is doing some amazing work. And so she has this poem called The Dash. And it's actually a book by Linda Ellis. So that's what that looks like. So that's an amazing book if you're looking to share something with someone. That's a great gift to give. So this is The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that the first came the date of birth, and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that you spent alive on earth. And now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation, more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remember that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about you on how you spent your dash? So food for thought. How do we spend our dash? So I just want to thank you guys. This has been beautiful. I appreciate you sharing time. We meet monthly on the 27th of every month at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's the same Zoom link. And if you know of anyone else who would like to join us, please share the link, and would love to have you join us next month. And I'm just so appreciative that you all came and shared some time and tea with me this evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Happy New Year to you all.
Hey, you didn't put in your full phone number, Christine.
Okay, I'll add it. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Maria.
Yeah, see you.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah, bye.